stuff. So that, if you just type in the internet, the Papa 1947, you can look at a whole bunch of examples that he has. And he shows you how to do it. He shows you how to turn them. And this stair thing was on, that's where I got it. A typical segmented bowl, you cut these segments for the individual rings at an angle, it depends upon how many segments there are around this thing. But this one has to be, so these are angled. They're basically trapezoids that are angled to a specific angle. The stair things, turns out, have to be rectangular. And so then he would cut a very specific angle that's different from this. I decided, well, I'd try putting, and he only has the stair step on one side, not on both sides. I thought, well, I could make it actually easier to make if you put them on both sides, because you don't have to come up with any certain angle. You sand everything just flat on both sides. And so that worked out pretty well. And again, this has maple, cherry, and walnut. The finish on it is just, I put 2 coats of lacquer on it. So that's it.
My next guest is, and I know we tend to overpraise, but he's a living legend. He's a man who epitomizes country rock. So records to his name. He's 50 years in show business. He really has earned the title of the Rhinestone Company, the title of his greatest hit. He's touring the UK. He's here now. We're delighted to welcome him, Glenn Campbell.
Okay, so my dad had a cherry tree come down in the summer, so I thought that the bark was probably likely to stay on here. So I tried this nested bowl set. I used a one-way coring system, and if you're familiar with one-way, it's an arc on a cutter on an arc. So you must follow this circular path in order to do this. But the thing you can change is where the center of your circle is. And so I ended up putting together a spreadsheet that kind of lets you see what the arcs are going to look like to help plan out the best use of your blank. And so if anyone is interested and isn't afraid of spreadsheets, let me know and I'll get you a copy. And then it just prints out, like, here's where all the centers were based on, where my lathe, the ways are. So there was some variation on where those centers were in order to get the shape that I wanted. And then I also did use that Core Pro cutter. That is a much more efficient cutter than what comes with the one-way system. So again, if anyone's interested, let me know. I'll email you the spreadsheet.
All right. Does everybody have their names in here? More guy. Dale and Steve. I don't think put the name in there. All right. Well, we'll do a little shuffle. Pick a name out. Not mine. Oh, look, it's Guy. Guy is going to be getting, it's in here somewhere, $10 gift card from Craft Supplies. Good job, Guy. And hey, Bill, you want to call a number from the back for 50-50? 50-50 is going to win $10. Or somebody. $396, so the last 3 digits. There you go. Winner of $10. Thank you. All righty. Does anybody have any other announcements? Anything else going on? So I'll get back on my X. Anything else? Going once. Going twice. Gary, you're up.
All right. Well, thank you for having me. We're in the process of cleaning out our home, building a new home that will be moving in this fall. And it's, when you go through all your treasures, your wood collections, this is pretty common. Would a lot of you agree? You know, it's like, it wasn't a bowl, but it's such nice wood. What do I do with it? So I thought this might be a good demonstration for you guys. It's stepping away from the lathe. It's getting more into woodworking, but that's what we do. So it was in September of 2018. We pretty much were just getting settled out here at the Tech Building. The CMWA moved out here, and we started offering classes. The CMWA is fortunate to have a gentleman, Raleigh Johnson, Roland, who he's a contributing editor of Fine Woodworking magazine, and he did the tours with the wood show around the country for many years. And Raleigh had a connection with Michael Collins, who was also doing demonstrations at the wood show. And he was invited to come out and do a class here. The class was originally set up for a 5-day class that they were going to cater in lunches, and it got pretty expensive. I think the price was like $750. Central Minnesota, you know, it didn't go over real well. So they modified the class to a 4-day and giving you time to go out and get your own meals. And then it started picking up a little bit. They lowered the price to about half of that. And we had, originally they were looking for 6 students. It became, shortly after that, 8 students. I think we ended up with 11 students here that we'd keep calling Mike and say, can you take one more? Can you take one more? It got word out in the Minneapolis clubs, the Woodworkers Guild. I think we had 3 people from the Woodworkers Guild here. The scramble was to get enough bandsaws in here so that everyone had their own. And the CMWA folks did a fantastic job of stepping up and bringing in their personal equipment and setting it up. So it was a very good class. I used the term class. It really wasn't, in my definition, a class so much as a workshop. Because the way Mike teaches, and what I'll be showing you today, is the basics of making a lidded box, a rectangular lidded box. But then he gets into showing how he embellishes it with carving, coloring it with various paint colors, and it's just fantastic. Michael got his college degree in mechanical engineering out in California. He's from Petaluma, California, or he was at that time. He's moved since. And he went into the field of mechanical engineering for a few years until he decided that he's drawn back to his family, which had a woodworking business. Didn't really elaborate if it was cabinetry or what it was, but Michael came into the family woodworking business and started doing custom furniture. I was going to have some pictures, but if you're interested, YouTube, get out there and Michael Collins Woodworker, and you'll see a lot of his furniture. So Mike explained to us that making custom furniture is a very stressful job. You know, you present it to the buyer, and in concept, they've got an image of what it's going to be. He said it was just a lot of stress because you could get, you know, he would buy his lumber from a mill, plane it, and dry it, do all that stuff to it. It's not something that you do in hours. It's measured in weeks, months to make some of this furniture. And he said at any given time, if you screwed up, you just went back to the beginning and started all over again. So in his downtime, he got thinking about, you know, my mechanical engineering studies, there's got to be a better way to making something simple. And making these lidded boxes became kind of his decompression or de-stressing. So what he showed us is what I will go through. We're going to work with some aspen that I have here. ideally you want to start out with something somewhat square. You know, if you don't have a planer or a jointer, I have a 12-inch disc sander that is a workhorse of my shop. I would go up and touch the corners, the sides, and get it flat. It's just better when you start working with a flat bandsaw bed to control that cut a little bit. So what we're going to be doing is cutting this block into 11 individual pieces by the time we're done and putting it back together. Now aspen, it's got some grain to it, but nothing like what you might have with cherry or walnut or something like that. The key of some of this is to make sure you reassembled in the same order that you cut it out. So we're going to be using a lot of witness marks, is I guess a woodworking term. One of the things that I like about demonstrations that I go to is that I learn new things and new tools, something to spend my money on or your money on. But so one of the things Michael brought to us is this is probably the best pencil I've ever owned. It's called a Black Wing, made in Japan. It is just, I've never broken a lead on them, but yet you get a nice dark line every time. So cost-wise, get them on Amazon. They're upwards of $3 a piece, buying them in a pack of 12. But I'll leave it up here. You can try it out. Great thing. The other thing that he brought to us, another way for me to spend your money, is a pencil sharpener. You don't think anything about a pencil sharpener because we all have them, whether it's the little freebies that you get that you twist and just about get it sharp before the lead breaks off, and then you start all over again and just break it off and start again. And then you had the crank types that you had in probably elementary school for most of us. And this is something that was unique to me. And it's you draw it out, you pinch it, it grabs the pencil, and then you start your cranking. Now, I'm going to do something that I'm going to break the lead off because I want you to see how this works. So I'm going to pull that out, locks in place in the out position. I put that in. As soon as I start to turn, it drops into engaging it, and it feeds the pencil in until it's sharp, and then it stops. You can't over sharpen it. And that's kind of it's a sharper point than most of your small sharpeners. I just love this thing. We've got 2 of them at home, and my grandkids got one now for their coloring books. Anyway, so that was a couple of things that were great. So what we're going to start out here right off the bat is I put a couple of witness marks. I'm going to cut this. First cut is going to be what will be the lid of the box. So a couple of witness marks so that I know what side, which orientation, so I can get that grain to look great. Mike started out the class. First thing he said was, rulers, tape measures, and straight edges are forbidden in this class. We have to do it freehand. And it was like, okay. So, and he showed us what he meant. So what I'm going to do is cut the lid off here. And so I'm going to be using the tip of my finger to gauge to control the depth of the lead of the pencil, and I'm just going to come across. So this is just going to be a basic flat box. We'll talk more about how it doesn't have to be. You can do whatever kind of shape you want, whatever your blade that you have will allow you to make the arcs. Again, it was an advantage of having both Raleigh and Michael, who did the wood show, that had a connection to a company. It's Supercut. Is they out of Montana or Wyoming? But they were, at the time, they were coming up with a 16th-inch blade, and they would sell the guides that went with it to fit most saws. I went to their website, and it's not there anymore. So, but we had 3 of them here as demos or as that we could use, and they were fantastic. I mean, you could do a jigsaw puzzle type cuts that were just unbelievable. I think Carter Tools also made one, But I don't see the supercut on their website anymore. Pardon me? They do, okay. But I don't see it on the, anyway. So freehand or no straight edge, I cut the top off. First thing I'm going to do is cut this top off. I haven't even used this saw yet, so you're going to learn with me. The blade, the teeth per inch TPI that Michael recommends is about 6 TPI. This is a little coarser than that. It's not a problem. I've done it with 3 TPIs and it works fine. But we'll talk about that as we go along. So we'll start this up. Michael was real good at an instructor that he said, you know, get to know this guy. This is your best friend and treat him that way. Dan Larson made the comment last month that the butchers love a bandsaw because it cuts meat and bones so well. Keep that in mind. So what he insisted that we all do is stand back, start the saw, because we had 11 people in here with 11 saws, and many of us have little hearing loss. We all had to say, put our hand on it, feel the saw run, say, thank you, saw, for being here today. I respect you, and don't take my fingers. All right, so I'm just going to feed through the bandsaw and cut that top off. Before I remove this and set it down in 2 different pieces, make sure that my witness line, which I didn't make long enough, because when I reassemble this box, I want all the grain to match. The next thing I'm going to do is open it up, and I'm going to put an X in this corner that relates to the X in this corner of the box, so that when I put it back together, you'll see as we go along why that's important. The other thing I'm going to do is write glue. This wasn't in our class. This is some of the learnings that I had making these at home myself. You get all these pieces apart, and it's like, which one do I glue to? Which one is the right orientation? So, all right, we did 3 sets of witness marks on that. The ends, a square, and telling me that those are the 2 surfaces that will be glued together. We set that aside. We're done with that for a while. And now on this box, what we're going to do is, again, no rulers, no straight edges. I want to know, I want to think about the design that I want to do and how much of an overlap the cover might be. So here's a box that I've made that I've tapered the corners up. So I want to figure enough of a sidewall so that the side of the box is a little bit less than the size of the lid, so I've got material to work with. So what I'm going to do is start out with the outside of my box, and again, I'm just going to take my finger, use that as a gauge. I'm going to draw 3 straight lines, but when I come to the last one, I don't want that straight. I want to put an angle to that. Why? Again, I'm trying to create a box that has all the grain matching. By doing that, the owner of the box someday can't put the lid on the opposite way and have it not fit and say, get it, you know. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make a line here, but then I'm going to come in and make more of an angle on that. Okay, so that's the outside edge. Now I'm going to do the same thing and make what the inside wall will be. Use my finger as a gauge. Is that showing up all right on the screen? So I'm going to make that all the way around. This one I do have to do freehand with that angle. All right. witness lines again. It's important so that this thing gets reassembled the right way. I'm going to put numerical, or alpha. I'll put an A on this corner of the side to match the A on that side. If I do the corresponding corner, the opposite corner, I'm going to put a B and B. So when I go to glue that together, I'll know how the proper way to go. If I got the A's matched up and the B's matched up, the other two corners have to match up. All right, so now I'm going to go to the bandsaw and set the table to about a 2.5 to 3 degree angle. Not really critical. You could do whatever angle once you get going. It was a workshop, and we had everything from 1 degrees to 7 degrees, so as dramatic as you want. So what I do in my shop is, because I mentioned that I use a disc sander a lot, it's nice to have a gauge that I can set my blade to on the bandsaw, as well as the same, and get the same angle on the disc sander. So I'm just going to use that to show you what I have. It's pretty darn close. And that's about a 3 degree angle that I'm working with here. Lock that down. It's important the sequence that you cut. I'm going to do the 2 side walls first, and then I'll cut the ends after that. We'll get started here. I want to make sure that what side of the blade I'm cutting on. So I'm always going to use my block on the downhill side. I'll call that the downhill uphill side. And we'll go through that. So I'm cutting the inside wall first. So there's one. So my third cut, second cut. There's no need to use the fence, and that'll be explained in a little bit. I'm going to cut this 2 ends off. And then my angled side. So now I'm down to 5 pieces. I'm going to reassemble that. I'll match my witness marks, my 2 B's. And my 2 A's. And what we're doing here is we're creating the box. The angles are critical to the function of the box because that's how everything fits together so tight. We're going to have some decisions to make here now in your design, and that is, what do you want to do with the inside? Do you want to create a carving inside? Do you want to sand it smooth? Do you want to leave it the natural bandsaw cuts? So what you would do is, at this point, dry fit it, mark it, and now I can sand anything except where I cut, where the corners are going to join. What you've done is you created a serration with the blade that makes a perfect fit. Whereas if I sanded this, it would be too smooth. When you go to clamp it, she's going to want to skate off. But by using the roughness of the blade actually helps you in the assembly process. And so, you know, I might want to, you know, take a sanding block, and I can clean that up a little bit, but I'm not going to take those serrations off of the glue joints. okay? So now we're down to 6 pieces of wood. To make the lid fit the box, I need to cut a piece off of this that will be used as an insert for the lid, and I need to cut a piece of this off for the bottom of the box. So now this is where the side of what side, the uphill side or downhill side of your tilted table matters. Because I've already got the 3 degrees there, so if I cut the top off on the top or the uphill side, the angles match that I'll cut a straight piece across. If I did it on this side, I don't know if the camera would catch that, but you'll see that it doubles the degree. Now I got 6 degrees of difference on the top and bottom. So I'm going to cut the top off of this side. Again. And I'll just cut this to maybe 1/8 of an inch. Doesn't matter, there's no magic thickness about it. Again, we weren't allowed to use a straight edge, but I'll just draw a straight line. There and here. And we'll cut that off. So there's where I said it's good to write that glue surface on there, because that's going to go on our lid. And a 3-degree angle on a 1/4 inch, 1/8 inch piece of wood is hard to see what the angle is. And if I did it upside down, it's not going to fit. You know, it's just a little good tip there to use that as a writing those witness marks on there. All right, now I got to cut the bottom piece off, and here I want to go on the bottom of the blade. And you'll notice here, it didn't really matter. I didn't have to make a straight cut. This is more of an artistic thing, so let the blade do a little bit of its own dance. I'm going to cut the bottom off. Again, I know that if I go to the bottom, downhill side, I'll cut a uniform bottom piece. So now that we are to the point of assembly. Let me just take a bit of the fuzz off here quick. I heard the comment about white glue. That's become one of my favorite glues. Tight Bond makes it. It's what I like about it, it's got a pretty fast set time. And we talked about all these different finishes there. Great, you guys are doing what you should be doing, is experimenting with finishes. I've been through the gamut. I've become solely a polyacrylic lover. I don't use the oils anymore. I spray it on. I've got a Wagner HVLP handheld sprayer. A lot of good YouTube videos on that too. And what I like about it is so darn simple. It takes the product right out of the can. You don't really need to thin it. You can thin it, but you don't have to. The gun handles it. And one of the videos I watched prior to buying it, the gal said that, who makes refinishes furniture, she said, I can wash this gun up with the polyacrylic faster than I can wash a paintbrush and get it properly cleaned with a solvent-based product to reuse. And I agree. Warm soapy water in a sink, I throw it in there and swish it around, rinse it out, fill it with water, run it through the gun before I put it away, and it's clean. So yeah, I like it because it's very low. There is no odor to it, in my opinion, but then again, I'm getting an older sniffer. I like to use gloss. Gloss is, you can make gloss any sheen you want through use of abrasives. But I learned years ago that the hardest finish is gloss. When they start adding the product to make it a satin, it softens the paint, because what they're doing is putting in silicas and various products to prevent the reflection of light to make it look flat. So I only use gloss, but I will make it the sheen that I want with like a 3M Scotch-Brite pad. I use the brown pads, and it's very easy to do. All right, so I'm going to just dry fit this piece real quick and show you how his process works. Match up my B, match up my A. Yeah. I think it comes out to about 11 when I'm done. So now, I didn't do something here. I should have put on the bottom of this out, because that's got that 3-degree angle on it. And although with the angled side, it doesn't really, I don't think I could put it in wrong. But what that's going to do is, as that bottom piece drops down with that 3-degree angle, it sticks in, it stays in there. If that was a straight wall cut, it would drop right out. So I can get that down. And what I would be doing here is adding the glue to those edges, wiping any squeeze out, probably putting a couple of clamps on. In the class, a couple of the CMWA members had to run to Harbor Freight when we saw how many people were here, and cleaned them out on their small bar clamps. God, they're like $2, $3 at Harbor Freight, and they work just fine for something like this. So visualize glue in there. I would make sure there's no squeeze out, because I don't want the top and the bottom glued in at this point. I want to use them as insurance that the box is staying square and tight. So dry fit the top, dry fit the bottom, get the glue on it, clamp it, and then we'll just do a hocus pocus here. And here's what it looks like after I would take the clamps off. Top and bottom is still in there. Critical part is to knock the bottom through the top. I couldn't drive it the other way because of the angle, correct? So now what I've done is, now I've got this piece that I can go to the cover, and I had my X in there, so I know that's the inside. The glue is on the outside. I can put that on the box to match the grain again. My witness mark is still there. That was why that's so important. And what I want to do is line that lid up perfectly centered as much as I can. The saw blade kerf is taking material away, so it'll be a little bit smaller, but what I want to do is trace the inside where the top panel that we cut out earlier will fit. So I've got my witness mark of the X. I got it says glue here, and I can put it on top of there, and it'll become a seamless fit. A little bit of glue on there, a couple more clamps to let that set up. Set that aside, you'll need that later. Now I can go in and put the bottom on. Because of the kerf of the blade, and depending on how tightly I've put my clamps on, this bottom panel I would put the glue on the inside of the box in the approximate location of where it's going to go, and then I will fit my bottom panel on. You can make it a flush bottom, or you can make it an indented bottom. I like the inset a little more. That's my personal thing. So I would put that in, and at that point already, that box is almost watertight. It's that, because again, that kerf of that blade, the serrations on it, it fits back together, it fits in tight, the angles, the harder you push it down, the tighter it gets. It was ingenious in my part. At this point, this is just a piece of waste wood. We've taken everything we wanted off it, but what Michael was recommending is, what do? I make a small box out of that one. You can make nested sets of boxes. All right, so then after that lid dries, there is a little bit of shaping to do. That top may not fit exactly. And there might be a little bit of where I would take a skew chisel or something. At this point, we're still in a square sides. That works great in a bench vise. If I had that already tapered on the outside, I'm kind of stuck. I can't really clamp it properly, but I can put this in a vise. I could put that lid back on with the insert after it's dry. Now I can take carving knives and do whatever I want there. I've got a good solid fit here, and that's where I would do some of the embellishments, and I'll show you a few of those in a minute here. But I might also have to do a little bit of shaping and put a little bit of a taper on that box to just get it fit right. Michael was really insistent on, it's not like a wood-turned box where you like that. You want this to be loose because someone's going to put their valuables in there, have it sitting on their chest of drawers, and grab it by the lid and be walking about halfway across the room when it drops off. So he strongly suggested that the box lid should be loose, and I agree. So now I still have the outside walls to cut. I'm still set up with my 3 degrees, and then I would just go to work and cut those off. So, hello, bandsaw, I know you're there. Remember my fingers? And now I'm going to cut that off. And again, it's a little important that you got to cut at the right side, so always on the downhill side of this to create that taper to that box. Michael made it a point to say, never throw anything away. Keep those scrap pieces, and we'll show you that in a minute. So the scrap pieces, as I showed you how that fit in the vise, what if, you know, you're halfway through the box, this was going to be how you want it, and it's like, you know what I should have done is this. Well, now that's not going to fit very well in a vise. It's going to slip out on you. But if you keep the scraps, you could put them back on temporarily. Now I can put them in the vise and get a solid squeeze, and it's going to stay put. If I wanted to do some carving on the sides of the box, I can put the pieces back in and put it in the vise this way and do my carving. Michael was all about textures and colors. Textures, colors, and I should throw in there too, shape. So we just did a square box. When I'm doing these, I do market these. My selling point is around Christmas time is that we grandparents, the kids love to get cash or gift cards, but you think, God, that's so personal, you know, they're gonna be out, I never know what they got. These boxes I like to make my size to fit a gift card so that they're getting something they want, but maybe an heirloom piece someday. They'll look back and say, Grandpa or Grandma built that for me. So That's my size. When I'm doing it, I'm doing about 10 at a time. I'm a production wood turner. I've made that comment numerous times. I just love it. You can do one at a time, but once my saw's set up, I might as well just keep going and get them all done. I'll have them all done, glued up and dried, and then I'll take them into my shop or into my basement or under the shade tree in summer and do my carving and texturing. So I have some samples here. Now these came from the class. So this is an example where it's basically the same process, but I've rounded the walls. I've also made a saddle for the lid. And when I drew those lines in there earlier to show how you can identify what the glue edge is, I did some carving on the inside. I keep forgetting about the camera, but I did some carving on the inside before I glued it together. I've got some ideas on what I want to do on the outside, and I'll do that at a later date. Yes? You don't have to make them square. You can do an arched box, same process, same degree angle, same. This one I did a flat bottom, a smooth bottom, but the top is the same. And this one is a texture, I call it a hammer finish. And that was the natural color to wood. I don't know if that was butternut or what. I didn't do anything on the inside. That's another example of what you can do. Then you can get into it, and then we start in with the coloring. Michael was a big milk paint guy and got me into it, and I still use it today. What was kind of cool about this is that because Michael does these classes around the world, literally. He said he taught in Japan where he had an interpreter next to him, and he could say it in English, and they would relate it, and he said the stuff they came up with is totally different than we do in the States. But always talks milk paint, and I'm sure most of you are familiar with milk paint, but just briefly, it's limestone based. It's basically Portland cement, and they use natural pigments to make the colors. Well, Michael has a connection with the owner. Mary was her first name, Mary, somebody who owns traditional milk paint, or old-fashioned milk paint. He gave us all her private office phone number. And I used it. I called her and I said, Mary? Yes. I told her what it was. Took this class from Michael, and he said I should give you a call that you put together a sample kit. Is that true? And she said, yeah, I can do that for you. Took my information and sent me 8 samples. And what's nice about this now is you can buy a quart of latex paint, use it, put it on a shelf. Next time you go to use it, you open it up and it's dry or it's hard or you don't have enough. And where milk paint, you make up what you need. It does, it's got a shelf life when mixed, maybe 6 to 8 hours in room temperature. You put it in the refrigerator and chill it, you might get 24 hours out of it. But I love this stuff, and what I like about it is it sands so well, because I don't know if I've got one here well, here's one. I like to do a distressed look. So I'll paint it in milk paint, and then I'll take a sanding block like I make here and take the high points off and give a little different look there. But here again, it's not square anymore. This was such a fun class because everyone was doing something different. One guy there made one for his granddaughter in the shape of lips and then carved the top to match the lips. It was awesome. It painted it bright red on the lips and black on the sides. I also like to use figured wood. So here's a spalted wood, and it kind of gives a little better example if that camera would show that, but I'll leave them up here for you to look at after I'm done. But that's why you want to make sure your grains and all that match. So this is just some spalted maple that made a nice, little bit larger box. Here's one that jury's still out on, and I'm still trying to figure out if that was. But that's what we did. We just played with colors, played with shapes, and Michael had. One of my favorite carving tools is the Swiss-made or file tools. I think they're some of the best on the market, and probably the most expensive ones on the market too. But he had a table here that had every one that file makes, and encouraged us to try different ones. See what that one does. Why don't you try this one instead of that one? And it was just such a, again, a workshop atmosphere that we could learn from. But it just goes on and on. So like this is one I made in the class where it's like, I wanted to do some sort of an alligator look to it, and using painted it first with black milk paint, and then hit the highlights at the tops with green, and that was one that I made in the class. We all walked away with 8 to 10 boxes and wood to make more at home. Some of these I've been playing with at home. I haven't gone much further than this one, but I was talking with my wife, and she said, you know, it'd be nice that I don't like to have to put my jewelry in the box at night knowing I'm going to wear it in the morning. So I said, well, what if I made the lid that you could put it in loose? And you know, so that's a different way of looking at the box. Again, playing with colors, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't work. I can go on and on here. I've got a lot of different ones that I'll lay out here after the class, but this is a very popular one that sells at the Paramount. And my thought process on this is I wanted to make like a Coach House purse, you know, with the leather. So I carved that out. One of the things Michael encouraged us to do is give them a surprise when they open the box. So a total different color and make it pop. And I'm told that a lot of the customers make that reference, that they like that. Yeah, this was an aerosol spray on, you know, again, just do something fun and different. I also made some that I use some of the segmented stuff. So I glued up some walnut and cherry into a block and cut it out, and that's just a different way of doing it too. Same process, as simple as that is, you can do so many different things. Again, this was more playing with some carving. I'm trying to make it look like a shell. I've got. No, never used a straight edge, and it works. This was one that my wife fell in love with, and it's displayed out at our lake home. And that was what I was thinking. I was trying to create, you know, waves in a boat type shape. So that's a little different. Now, we don't have to do the 4 sides. When I would lay this one out, what we did was, it'll show here, but we start, you know, again, you're not going to measure, I'm just going to estimate, but we cut it something like this, and it doesn't have to be, you do whatever you want to do. And then that becomes, then I draw my inside walls. Because it doesn't matter. If some of these, you'll look closely, they're not uniform, and that's okay. Because if the inside wall is not straight, you know, undulates up and down, doesn't matter because your lid is the same way. That insert that you made for the lid, and it'll fit right into that irregular box. And just a few more here to leave layout here if you want to look at them. But here's one I was trying to make a stone wall. And this one is a work in process as well. But they're just, again, I wish they would have Michael back again because I would be the biggest promoter of the class. It was wonderful. So that's about the extent of what I was going to demonstrate. And the point I wanted to make here is that the sky's the limit. It's all the same process. It's all that mechanical engineering of how the angles made it work, and it's wonderful. Any questions? So none of them, the lid can be put on? Nope. Good question. Yeah, like this one, it looks like it's uniform, but it won't fit. And that was ingenious for him to give that some thought. Same with these. It looks like it should be all uniform, but no, it won't fit together. What about a hinge for the top? I suppose it would be, but, you know, I'm not sure if that would be, yeah, why wouldn't it? Yeah. That can be a John K. box. One thing I think I would like to share with all of you who might market their product is that don't forget to give credit where credit is due. If you were to go down to the Paramount and look at my bandsaw boxes, I call them a Michael Collins inspired bandsaw box. And I talked to Michael in the class and I asked him, if I sell them, you know, is it okay? And he said, yeah, you're welcome to. And I said, but I do want to give you credit for them. And he said, I appreciate that. So I sell down in Rochester. I do the same thing. These are in my portfolio. These are Michael Collins inspired bandsaw boxes. So I'll leave these lay out. Any other questions? Pretty much. I mentioned that I use my disc sander a lot, and I will hit something like this on a disc sander because I'm trying to make it a more formal look, and that works out well. When I set the disc bed at the same as the blade of the bandsaw, I can just touch it up and it works out really well. Sometimes it's nice if I know I'm going to sand or I'm going to carve it, that I'll true up the size with a sander, but trying to put a textured finish on it. Other questions?
So the finishing on these, it's got to be many times more than building.
Yep. But that's where it becomes fun. Like I say, I'll do these, and then I sit under a tree out at the lake and I'm carving on it. I'm visiting with people while I'm carving on it and watching a show on television carving on it when my wife's not home. One other thing I wanted to show you, and I'm thankful that Jay is here because this was something that Jay recommended to me. It's I heard some comments made when Dan Larson was here last week about that little blower that he had there underneath the lathe. And Jay told me about this around Christmas time. And so it's a little USB charged blower. It comes with, I think, 4 different tips. It comes with brushes if you want to use it for, like, say, cleaning your keyboard on your phone or on your laptop. And they're very easily little quarter twist and it locks in. You got 3 different speeds to this. John, if I could, feel it there. It's I use this in the shop all the time. Jay, that's what Jay told me too. So I'll show you just a little bit of it there. You know, I can clean off my tools, but I can hit the power button once, a little bit slower. I can get just a mild one so I don't have all this dust blowing all over the place. That's an Amazon purchase. I've got a 45-gallon twin compressor in my shop that I used to start up every day so I had air to blow around. This replaced it. No kidding, I don't use that one anymore. Yeah. I bought them during the Cyber Monday deal. I think I paid $64. I bought 3 of them. My son-in-law, my son, myself, and then I bought a 4th one for my wife because what she liked about it is when she goes to work and gets that real fine snowfall and in January, just a nuisance. She has one in the car and she blows the car off before she drives away. She loves it. So thank you, Jay, for that tip. Other than that, I'll hang around here if you want to come up and look at these and ask me questions. Again, I was just going to mention that the reason I went to the white glue is because I went to the polyacrylic. If I've got squeeze out or glue, I heard some of you talking about if you get CA glue, it doesn't take the stain. The polyacrylic takes to this glue, and I could have a big smudge, and it blends right into the finish. It's awesome. Okay, thank you.